So this is the third in a series that we're doing about the nature of realization. And if you missed any in previous ones, if you look in the chair in front of you, and the red little sliplet there will give you how to get the other ones, either on podcasts or online or whatever it is. And the blue one, if you'd like to be on our mailing list, just fill that in, put it in the plate there, or give it to me, or whatever it is. That's what that one's for. So we're looking at the nature of realization. How do you make things happen? My daughter's always talking about, Dad, you've got to manifest this or manifest that. It's the sort of language that she speaks in. And I'm not really completely talking about that whole nature of, the 4 agreements and all that. I'm not going in that direction. Because this is the season, just to be churchy, this is the season of Epiphany. And the season of Epiphany is the season of the revelation. So it's about revealing stuff. The season of Epiphany is when 3 kings saw Jesus, so Jesus was revealed to the Gentiles. So this is the season of revelation, really. And revelation really is, an epiphany is a sudden, intuitive perception or insight. So you get the perception or insight, and it comes from the word, Greek word, which means to reveal. That's what that's about. So there are 2 aspects. There's the revealing, which is when the 3 kings went, there's a star. I think this is what's going to happen. And it was revealed to them that they'd be able to find, Jesus, the king, whatever it is, in the manger. And then the realization was when they decided they'd take the trip, they'd go on the journey, and sure enough, they realized what was happening. So you've got a revelation that happens, and you've got the realization. And that's what we're talking about, that whole, how do you go from when something is revealed to you to when it's, to that moment of realization. So that was the beginning of it. And the first week, we talked about, all of us have these little whispers in our hearts. There's little whispers that come to you and say, what about this? Or what about that? Whispers that really suggest that our lives could maybe mean something, or this sort of thing might happen. And when we hear those whispers, we think, well, I'm not paying attention to that. That's obviously come from, somewhere else. It's never going to happen, that we might mean something in our lives, that we might get a little glimpse of eternity. We might have a little bit of enlightenment, or we might make a special contribution, or love might arise in our hearts, or all those sort of just little things that we think, wouldn't that be great if that happened? Can we actually make these whispers a possibility in our lives? Can we make them into a reality? That's what we're really looking at here. That we might see the world become a better place. Not in that insistent manner, which is, I'm going to make sure that this happens. I'm going to do everything that's necessary. Which I don't think is what we're really talking about here. That's not a sort of spiritual way to be insistent about things happening. But I'm talking here about the humble way, which says, if these things are truly meant to be, then I will give myself to allowing them to happen. Which is really what, if you know the story of the Annunciation, where the angel comes to Mary and she says, look, I know you're a virgin, but you're going to have a baby. And, the baby's from God, blah, blah, blah. And you can see that, Tharn on her face as she's, rabbit in the headlights. And all she says is, let it be to me as you have said. Let it happen if it wants to happen. And that's the sort of attitude that we're talking about here. We come from the perspective that all is possible, but not necessarily probable. All is possible. So how do we manifest that? So that's what we talked about the first week. And then last week we talked about, what stance do you need to take in order to have these whispers coming to realization? How do you be in your life in such a way to make that happen? And I said the stance was a bit like the stance of standing on a bridge. So we stand on a bridge with the outer world in front of us, coming towards us, and our inner world, where all that stuff, the inner world is within us. And we are in our lives in that bridge between the outer and the inner. Right now you are. You've got all the stuff that's outside here, me banging on, or all the people around you. And then you've got your inner stuff, all the feelings. Why did I come? Is he going to go on forever? How's this? All those thoughts and the feelings that are going on. And you've got the outer and the inner together. And our aliveness is, the very fact we're alive, that gives us this inner and the outer world. And I also said it was a bit like we're standing on a bridge with a river going beneath us. And the river that flows between the inner and the outer world is obviously, it's our breath. And our breath is what connects us with the inner and the outer. We stay in that present moment, which is the moment with the inner and the outer. We have our breath, which keeps us in that present moment. It's like the flowing water. And while we're aware of that flowing breath between us, while we're aware of our breath, we're not sucked in to our fascination with the outer world, and we're not consumed by the inner world. So our breath keeps us awake, literally keeps us alive, in the aliveness of being in the present moment. That's what we spoke about last week. And we're on the cusp between the two, aware of both, inner and the outer, in the moment with both. Being fully alive is being in the present moment that contains all these worlds, the within, the without, the flow of life, the water. And our job in life is to remain on the bridge, to take up that stance at all times, to listen for those whispers, to connect the inner and the outer, and navigate a course that's made evident to us when we hear what's revealed to us. Like the kings, it was revealed to them. What is revealed to you in your life? And are you willing to make it happen? That's what calling's about. It's when when you're called by the universe. My job is a job of call. All our jobs are jobs of calling. We're called to do salsa at Takao. We're called, things suggested to us by our lives, and we take advantage of it. And today I want to talk about what it takes to actually bring that which is revealed to us that we have an opportunity of realizing. And for me, there's one word that sums up the action of this realization. And Heather, my wife, spoke the word last week. I'm just going to blow my nose here. And I think it's a really important word in today's society. And that word is consent. I want to look at that word consent today and look at how it affects our lives. I think it's one of the key, I think consent, and it's a big thing to say, but I think it's one of the key words of the 21st century. It came into prominence really with the Me Too movement, as this was seen as a key factor, consent, in determining whether some form of abuse has actually taken place. But I think the importance of that word consent goes way beyond all of that. When I mentioned the word someone last week, I said someone last week, well, I think I'm going to do this. He said, oh, you mean acceptance? But I think consent goes much deeper than acceptance. If you look at that idea of standing on a bridge at the meeting point of the inner life and the outer life, with our breath as the river that flows between us, we're looking at a stance that keeps us in the present moment, as I said. And in that present moment, things come our way. Things came your way this week, as I said, some which you were grateful for, although, we should be grateful for all of them, and some which you thought, I'd rather not have this. But whether we consider them to be pleasant or unpleasant, difficult or easy, what we're asked to do is to consent to them. Our considerations about comes our way are really not relevant. They simply are what is, as Byron Katie talks about. It's being with what is. And we're invited to welcome, to consent to whatever comes our way. I always love that poem by Rumi, The Guest House. And it really speaks of welcoming. This is the poem, The Guest House by Rumi. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. welcome and entertain them all. Even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture, still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at your door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent from the guide beyond. It's a wonderful description of standing on the bridge, of consenting to what happens in our life. Acceptance is not enough. Acceptance is agreeing to receive something. We give up to something happening in our lives. But consent, there is more. There is an active welcome that suggests a participation in the welcome. Now, those of you who've come before know I like etymologies. I like looking at the meanings of the word. And consent is fantastic. It comes from two Latin words, con, which means together, and sentir, which means to feel. So consent is to feel together. Consent is a function of relationship. It is a feeling together, a joining together, and it suggests active participation in what's going on. Now, the dictionary definition of consent says to yield when one has the right or power to oppose. To yield when one has the right or power to oppose. So there is equality in consent. It comes from a position of strength and a recognition of partnership. And that's important in this case for allowing our lives to be shaped and developing our relationship with those whispers that come into our hearts, that come from our relationship with the divine. Those whispers are the universe calling to us. We have a unique relationship, each of us. You have a unique relationship with the universe. No one has lived their life. No one has lived the life that you're living. And the universe uniquely calls to you because you and the universe are of one. That's our whole course. But there is a unique relationship that we have together. And that's important in this case for allowing us to consent and to be active to what comes our way. And in the same way, we're not just accepting circumstances of our lives, whether we judge them to be favorable or not. We feel together with those circumstances. We stand on that bridge and we feel what is coming to us. And we feel what is within us. And we consent to the marriage of those two feelings. And when that happens, we become the adult in the room. I always like that sense of being the adult in the room. People hate it. I don't want to be the adult in the room. Why should I? My parents are older than me. I said, people come to me and say, oh, my mum, my dad, I said, we've got to be the adult. But they're the adults. Why should I have to be the adult in the room? But that is what's asked of us. We're all asked to be the adult in the room. That is the qualification for the spiritual life, is you say, right, I am going to be the adult in the room. And to have those two lives, to consent to life, is to be the adult in the room, because you then start to work with what is going on. We're no longer just coming from what we think or what we feel. We're coming from a consentive partnership in our relationship with the universal mind, the divine. I was talking to my daughter the other day, and I was talking to a couple of kids. I'm doing a confirmation class. It was with a couple of kids, and I was trying to explain to them, you've got the rational mind. You've got the body mind. You've got the planetary mind. All those are ordering principles. The planetary mind orders the way the world works. The body mind orders the way the body works, And our rational mind, orders the way we work in our lives. And the universal mind is that ordering principle. You can call it God, whatever you like. It's the universal principle, the universal ordering nature. And our role in life, in fact, I can tell you your purpose in life right now. Your purpose in life is to work with that universal mind, to have the purposes of that universal mind, which is love, come about through your life. So it is to consent to that. It is a meeting of minds, and we live out of the oneness of non-dual consciousness. Again, that's a whole course as well, but if you've been here a while, you'll know what I'm talking about. We consent to being merged with the universe, to becoming one with the purposes of the divine. Now, we had that reading from the Song of Songs, and the whole message of the Song of Songs, from which that reading was taken, is about the consent of the human and the divine. It's the lover and it's the beloved. And it represents God and us. I mean, you know, the Song of Songs is the nearest you get to erotic literature in the Bible. But the reason it's there is it represents this relationship. Heather and I, my wife, we had it at our wedding. This particular reading that we had today, we had it at our wedding. And it represents both the human relationship and the relationship of the human with the divine. The lover represents the divine. The woman represents the divine coming into her life. My beloved spoke to me and said, "Arise, my darling, my beautiful one. Come with me." There's a consent here being asked for. "See, the winter is past. The rains are gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of the doves is heard in the land. The fig tree forms its early fruit, the whispers. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me." A relationship of consent with the divine. And it goes on, "Catch for us the foxes, the little foxes that ruin the vineyards, our vineyards that are in bloom." And of course, the little foxes are the thoughts that our mind produces that takes us away from consenting. The foxes are thoughts that take us away from consenting to what's happening. Suddenly we think, and our attention, we think and our attention is lost, and we fall into choosing what we will have and what we won't have, and the spell is broken and the vineyards are ruined. It is the love of life that enables us to consent, the giving of ourselves to life. The love of life, which is the giving of ourselves to life with no expectation of return. We have a definition of love here. Love is giving with no expectation of return. And it is the loving of life that enables us to consent, the giving of ourselves. And while we love life in this way, then we are willing to have, to feel, to experience whatever comes our way. We welcome every guest. But the little foxes, the little thoughts of our mind make us selective. And in that selectivity, we remove our consent and the love is lost. When we consent, we participate with life. We feel together with life. We conspire with life to bring about the purposes of the divine. And when our whispers begin to become louder, and we see that in response to those whispers, we're willing to make something new happen. And willing to make something new is spiritual code. You can find it in the Bible. When you talk about making something, it's spiritual code for transformation. In Isaiah 43, it says, "Forget the former things. Do not dwell on the pasts. See, I am doing something new. Now it springs up. Do you not perceive it? I am making a way in the wilderness and streams in the wastelands." I'm making something new. That's the spiritual life. And in the book of Revelations, he who was seated on the throne says, and seated on the throne means standing on the bridge. He who is seated on the throne said, "I am making everything new." When we consent to life, we are seated on the throne and we are making everything new. The newness comes from our consenting to love, and it's how we bring about realization of those whispers. I said at the beginning, and I'm coming to the end, that I thought that consent was the word of the 21st century. And I think it's not just about our relationship with the divine. It's not just about the Me Too movement. It is the watchword of the new consciousness that is emerging at the moment. That global consciousness. I've talked before about the first axial consciousness that happened in the 15th, 16th century with the arrival of Christianity, Buddhism, the sense of the transcendent. And we're moving into a second axial consciousness, which is characterized by our global consciousness, the fact that we are experiencing the world as one, even if it's just through devices. But we are experiencing that global consciousness that recognizes the essential, unified, and interdependent nature of our existence. This new consciousness recognizes the essentially unified and interdependent nature of our existence. This new consciousness recognizes consent as a necessary requirement for participation in a new way. Consent in relationships between people, consent in relationship between communities, consent in relationship to our government, consent in relationship to other nations, consent in relationship to our planet. Consent between people is a matter of respect. We respect the feelings of others and we participate with them in consent. And the same is true in our relationship with those that govern us. This new consciousness demands consent, which is why the idea of dictatorship is being thrown into such sharp relief at the moment. Dictatorship is non-consent. It's imposition. And consent is what is required at the moment. It's the same with a relationship of interdependence demands consent on a basis of participation. And to enforce consent, to enforce without consent, goes against the principles of interdependence. And there has to be consent between peoples when it comes to deciding issues of borders, when we're no longer in an age where the use of force is acceptable in any way in deciding matters. Without consent, it is violent rape. And it's also true with our relationship with the planet. You may say, how can the planet consent? It can't say anything. Well, the simple way to see it is that there is consent when, as it says in the Song of Songs, when the vineyard blossoms. There is consent when our planet becomes fertile and welcoming to the presence of humans. When there is not consent, the planet will thrash around and throw up all sorts of natural disasters that will result in the effect, like we're having on the climate at the moment. So, for me, consent is the watchword of our century. It is the path by which we achieve peace. Peace with our climate, peace between nations, peace with our government, peace between people, and peace with each other. And the first stage of achieving this peace is to consent individually to our deep relationship with life as we stand on the bridge, to love life, to give with no expectation of return, to allow ourselves to be shaped and molded by that which is infinitely more wise than us, the great mind of the divine. So we always, in our services here, have an opportunity for you to come back at what we're saying. I always say that we give this information out with you, willingness to be wrong. So I'm just interested if anyone's got anything they want to say, ask a question, share an experience, or disagree. If there isn't anybody, that's also fine as well, because we like silence here, and silence is okay too. So is there anybody who would like to respond or say anything? Yes, thank you. Wendy.
Just one thing that really struck me is the difference between acceptance and consent coming from a place of strength.
Yeah.
That just seems like a game changer, really.
Yeah.
In terms of what we have to do or a way to do it in a better way. But feeling strong and grounded and able to make that decision.
Thank you, Wendy. That's lovely. Anybody else? Thank you. Not everybody you'll know. You just say your name first.
My name is David, and I've been struggling with learning to meditate. And so I'm interested in your analogy of the bridge between the outer world and the inner world. and the river being the breath, as you said. Are you explicitly saying that breathing, that meditative process of focusing on the breath, is part of your process?
Absolutely, 100%, yes. You're going to give me an opportunity now to say absolutely. I think, for us, I always quote the Archbishop of Canterbury, the last one, Ray Williams, who said that meditation is the only thing that will allow us to not be sucked into the advertising and financial systems that are there. He says it's a truly revolutionary act, and we are absolutely big advocates here in meditation. And if anybody wants to learn to do meditation, wants to come and chat with me, just give me a ring and come along and talk to me, because we really want to encourage you to take up a practice, to pursue meditation, because it takes us from our minds into our hearts, and we are standing on the bridge in meditation. We are receiving. And thank you so much, David, for mentioning that. One question. If you had one piece of advice for someone struggling to get it regularly going, what would you say? Stick with it. Now, I'm going to give you two bits of advice. Stick with it. No, first of all, I always think, you're reading these books, meditate for 20 minutes in the morning and the evening. I don't. I don't meditate in the morning. You've really got to pick what is going to work for you. If it works for you to do 3 minutes, just do 3 minutes. It has to be a joy. So just do the 3 minutes and then come back again to the 3 minutes. And I started with that and I went to 4 to 5. You build it up. So keep it just as to where you want to be. All of us are on a sort of, balance. And if your balance is over here, that's totally fine. I don't do it every day. I take Friday and Saturday off. I go and watch whatever on television. I go swimming. So, do it the way you want to do it, David.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay. Yes, go. Yes, Amy.
Hi, I'm Amy. I'm not going to get into a long story, but the Whispers of the Heart 2 weeks ago, that just rang with me. And I've been sitting on it and sitting with it. And there's been a huge shift and transformation in my life, because it wasn't intuition. We had that discussion, but it was something more.
Yeah.
And it was the universal, whatever you call consciousness, calling to me. And it's just been amazing. I love the magic of it.
Thank you, Amy. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Here we are. Bruce.
Well, I like your observation about, to be the adult in the room is psychologically, spiritually, a sort of a mature way to be. And I appreciate the fact that you're a great proponent and teacher of that. What concerns me in today's society is, and maybe it's because of Twitter or X now, there are people who are saying, no, be the crying baby, bratty victim, and you're entitled, etc. And it's a battle, it's a struggle, to try to get more people to grow up in a democracy.
I came off Twitter the moment it became X, and I've never regretted it. I used to look at Twitter all the time, and I thought, oh God, can I? And I did. I went, boom, delete. I found myself so much real. I do think that's the case. But I do think this thing of being the adult in the room, it's so important in all our relationships. It is with our marital relationships. Why should I be the one that's always, yes, it's always you. With our children, with our friends, with our parents, in our communities, being the adult, I think it's so important. This is why I call this talk Consenting Adults. Yeah. Yes, Siam, and then we'll finish.
I just wanted to make a comment about Twitter. The reason that I left was there was so much just negativity, garbage, entitlement, that sort of thing. And in as much as I've always run a little codependent, want to fix everything, I realized, it's too much of a mess. So I'm just going to ignore that and focus on the people who are a little more mature. And it was great, because now it's not a problem.
What did you get from the Sunday talk? Well, everyone came off Twitter. I don't mean it, Elon, really, please. Okay, good, fantastic. Well, thank you so much for participating. It's so appreciated. You know, it's so important to actually have a conversation, I think. It shouldn't just be us, you know, pontificating, you know, and it always moves things on. And what we spoke about today will move things on. So what we're going to